Good morning and welcome to South Asian Heritage Month. This is the second South Asian Heritage Month that's been celebrated in the UK, and also happens to be the second South Asian Heritage Month that the Asian Fire Service Association with Jackdaw Singh Associates are hosting. So today we'll be celebrating our history, our heritage of South Asian heritage. We'll also be talking to some inspiring leaders from across different sectors, from the fire service, from police forces, and from the NHS. And I'm really pleased to have managed to have got a number of really great speakers who are going to share their knowledge, their experience, the barriers, and their top tips. But one of the things I've asked them to do also today is talk about their name. What's in a name? It's so important that we understand the South Asian heritage names, because it can tell you an awful lot about the individual's culture, their background, their faith, and also about the way that you may be able to greet them and meet them and make you more culturally competent. Now, of course, you could be stereotyping, and it's very important that you ask the individual and speak to the individual about those assumptions you can make from an individual's name. But what a great starting point to start with, asking an individual, what's your background in Pray Narisha? What does it mean? How does it affect you in your life?
So my name is a Sanskrit word, and it means inspiration. And it's so the Sanskrit pronunciation is Prerana, and then so the Hindi pronunciation is Prerana, and then there are lots of other kind of pronunciations that come up, and some I think end up sounding like a dangerous fish that I try to correct people. And now I know who my friends are, because friends will kind of preemptively help others pronounce my name and other people's names. So, I do that as well. And I just will say to people right up front, this is how to pronounce my name. But I'll also look out if some other names are being mispronounced. And I always check, whether I'm pronouncing someone's name right or not. And my daughter, whose name is Sharanya, and Sharanya is one of the avatars for goddess Durga. She was recently in her school in London, was told by a teacher, "Oh, your name's too difficult. Can I just call you Dave?" And it just was so shocking for all of us, but especially for my daughter. She's 14. And it made me think a lot about how we are either respecting or not other people's heritage by the trouble we take over names. So thank you for asking me.
It's interesting. My Indian name is Anil Kanti Basu, which, depending on where you come from, what you're told means all kinds of things like blue light and fire. And I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of Basu as a Bengali name. It wasn't very common in this country when I was growing up. My father was an immigrant from Calcutta in 1961. He got an academic scholarship to come here as a doctor. He was already a fully qualified doctor. People of my vintage, and certainly his vintage, will remember you had to re-qualify again. So he went to Edinburgh University and had to do an extra sort of year, 18 months, to be given a license to practice here. My mother is from a very tiny Welsh town in Snowdonia called Trevry, up in the sort of the kind of tourist area. And a white Welsh woman from a town of a handful of people and a handful of houses, meeting an Indian and bringing an Indian home back in the 1960s was a huge deal. So I always talk about my struggles of sort of growing up in my communities that I was born and raised in. But my parents were stoned in the streets in the 1960s for holding hands. So quite a moment. And I'm a leader of hope. I believe, leadership is all about optimism. No one follows a pessimist. So I know that my parents' experience was far worse than mine, and my children's experience is far better than mine. And I'm kind of an Obama fan. So when he left the White House and said, what time, at any time in history, when would you have wanted to be born as a person of color or as a woman? And that time would be today, because it's better than it's ever been. But interestingly, you will see in all my professionalism, I'm known as Neil, not Anil. And the reason for that is because my family couldn't cope with my Indian name, even though that's what's on my birth certificate. And the Welsh family found it easier to call me Neil, which obviously a Welsh name sounded very like Anil, which is how my Bengali family pronounced my first name. And having an anglicized first name is interesting when you have an unusual surname. So until people meet me, you can tell I was born and raised in the Potteries in the Midlands. Like you, Jack, I don't have an obvious accent. So you know that age-old adage is, where are you from? And I have to keep repeating time and time again that I'm from the Potteries. And my accent is fairly sort of pedestrian because I've lived in London most of my life, went to university in Nottingham, but I was born and raised, and my life is around Stafford and the Potteries. My brother is still there, my mother is still there, I go home. But obviously, if you couldn't see me, if you were speaking to me on the phone and I had this name, Neil Basu, people would not immediately think I was Asian.
My name, its origin, like most Muslim names, are taken from Arabic, or the origins are from the Quran. So my name, Faisal, depending on which definitions you look at, means anything from judge, arbiter, ruler, decision maker. And if you think about my surname, Hussein, it means things like good, strong, and handsome. And I think I like the final one, handsome.
Yeah, my name is Shahbaz Shah. If you were to Google my name, it'd come up as referring to the fabled guardian Shahbaz, which also implies kings of Royal Falcon. So it sounds like almost like a Red Indian name, really. But I think my mother actually named me Shahbaz over an actual person called Shahbaz back in the 11th century. He was a Sufi saint, and he was able to bring together so many people from different backgrounds together from all sorts of faiths in the region at that time. And that's what was so special about this person. So yeah, that's what my name means.
Mike Chand is a name that's been given to me by my organisation, which is Bedfordshire Police. My actual name is Mahinder Singh Chand. So I'm from Punjab in India, born and bred here, but as most people have already stated, parents came along, migrated from the sort of 50s and 60s over here. And the reason I ended up with the name Mike was definitely not our choice. The name is Mahinder, and I started off with the name Mahinder. But because they found it too long or a little bit difficult to say, and I don't know how that's difficult to say, but they did find it difficult to say, they shortened it to Mo. And then anyone who didn't know me automatically assumed my name was Mohammed. Now, nothing wrong with the name Mohammed, but it's not my name. So, you know, you'd get on the tannoys, can Mohammed come to blah, blah, blah. And I'd be looking around thinking, well, who's Mohammed? Not realizing it was me that they were referring to because they had shortened my name to Mo. And as Jack alluded to earlier on, my prior job before this was a mix engineer for PA companies. And whenever someone on the mic would say, can you check my mic? They would say, mic check, mic check. So the word mic actually comes from microphone, not Michael. But obviously been converted and reverted, or whichever way you want to look at it, to Mike Chand. So I've stuck with it because if you went to Bedfordshire Police and asked for Mahinder, they'd scratch their head. They wouldn't know who that was. So that's how the name Mike has stuck, and I've just lived with it, I'll be honest with you.
My name is Ramesh Mehta. Now, the real Indian name is Ramesh, but Anglicized name, as everyone calls me here, is Ramesh, which is fine. I don't mind too much because it's almost similar. What it means is, it means Rama plus Ish. So a person who loves Ram, Ramesh. So my name was given to me, I believe, by my mom and dad. So this is a long, long ago. I was born in a place in central India. You won't have heard the name. It's called Pandurna. It's near a big city called Nagpur. So a very small place. I was delivered at home with assistance by one of my mother's friends, home delivery. And I was brought up in that small town.
So my name's Hardeep Dale. aka D. What does Hardeep mean? It's a traditional Sikh name. Some will say it means God's love, but I break it down to Har means everybody, Deep means light. So everybody's light.
So let me ask you a question that colleagues not from a Sikh background may not know. Can a first name be a male and a female name?
Yes, it can.
So just because this Hardeep is bold and a male doesn't mean to say the next one will be. The next one might be very pretty and have long hair. So Hardeep, you're a Sikh then by tradition, you're a Sikh by birth. Tell us how those Sikh values defined you at school and in the early days of work.
I think our Sikh values are genuinely, morals are good. You actually are diverse. We embrace diversity as a true Sikh. Integrity, honesty. The values I've been brought up with, some people think you need to learn those. These are the things we were brought up with from day dot.
My name is Arusa, and I am a Muslim. My family is from Kashmir in Pakistan, but I was born and bred here. So my name Arusa means it's actually an Arabic name. Even though my family are from Kashmir, it's an Arabic name that means mostly two things. It means bride in one sense, and it means heroine in one sense. And I guess I didn't really think too much about the meaning of the name while I was younger. But I think I started to appreciate my name more and kind of stand for my name more, a little bit more as I got older, by looking into it and understanding that actually, let's not just go for short versions that people, as we've mentioned before, that people can't necessarily appreciate or pronounce or spell right or any of that. Let's actually stand by our names and appreciate what they are and what they mean and sort of be proud of that. So I definitely found strength of that a lot later in life, unfortunately, not early enough. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more important to me now.
Now, my first name, Ananta, is a Sanskrit word, and it means eternal, endless, or infinite. And in some forms, in religious texts, and to refer to God who is considered infinite, in the Hindu versions and various versions of Hindu gods, which is my religion, Hinduism. So and it's also in this case part of my inherited family's name, because in our culture we have people who are named after their grandparents, parents, and other relatives, and indicative of the place that we come from in India. So, and my surname is actually Dave, and it is a surname which is common in the western parts of India, in Gujarat or Maharashtra. So it's interesting about my name because people found it initially difficult to pronounce my name, the first name and the second name. And many people asked me to convert or shorten it to Anne Dave. And I used to be called Anne Dave as a shortened version of my first name and as the English version of my second name. And to my shame, in the beginning, I didn't correct people. And now, as the years have gone on, I've become a bit more confident of my identity, and I tell people what my name is and how it's to be pronounced.